the SPS Digital Learning Hour.
Brought to you by the Digital Learning and Assessment Department.
Thanks for joining us today. I'm your host, Mike Thomas.
And I'm SuzanneSPSDLA.
We're coming to you from a conference room in Central Office, bringing you the latest news in the Springfield Public Schools in regards to technology, along with inspiring interviews from teachers who are using technology in the classroom.
We'll also inform you of the latest updates, practices, and news as it pertains to our district. Whether you are new to using technology in the classroom or are a seasoned vet, we are here to help.
Thanks for joining us today. I am Mike Thomas.
I'm SuzanneSPSDLA.
I'm Brendan Reed.
And we are glad to be joining you today, all three of us back together again, which means that for the last couple of weeks, like I've mentioned, we've been pulling Brendan and Suzanne away for MCAS stuff and other related business that we have to take care of in our department. So it's great to have everybody back today. In case you missed it, the latest blog post went out, and it goes into the difference between game-based learning and gamification. So what that really means for you is if you've been following along the last few weeks, you have seen the last few blogs, the first of which was all about what game-based learning is, followed by what gamification is. And so this week we kind of look at the difference between the two side by side. And so there's a great chart on the blog. There's a whole bunch of resources. I think last I counted there was about 12 different articles and resources that you could pull from, including in this chart, like it talks about like differences for them. And it gives you a few examples, like gamification is like Class Dojo, and Dragon Box is an example of game-based learning, or you could also say Oregon Trail. So check out the latest blog post. It will be posted in our show notes. It's also up on We Learn, SPS, and also the Brightspace blog under my name, Mike Thomas.
In case you missed it, We Learn Wednesdays are coming up in March. For 3 Wednesdays in March, you'll be able to attend workshops from 4 to 5:30 at the Melanie Kasparian Learning Center and learn about the technology tools that your peers are using. On Wednesday, March 7th, you have the choice of learning about English language learner tools in Brightspace, Office 365 Teams, and Dino. The posting should be up soon. Check it out.
That's it for In Case You Missed It. Coming up next, Hot Takes.
So for this week's Hot Takes, we are going to dive into where Brendan and Suzanne have been away, why they've been away for so long, which is MCAS, and kind of look at what's new, what's going on, and all the things that you really need to know. Brendan, what's new with MCAS this year?
Thanks, Mike. So there's quite a bit new with MCAS this year. So as many of you know, we're now testing more grades on computer-based testing. Students in grades 4, 5, 7, and 8 are mandatory to be taking the computer-based test of MCAS 2.0 this year. Some schools, although, have selected to partake in CBT testing in grades 3 and 6 as well. In terms of preparing schools for the MCAS this year, we are using the same infrastructure trial structure process that we used last year. So we're currently working with test coordinators and administrators at schools to prepare our schools, grades 3 through 8, for infrastructure trials to give everybody at the schools, teachers, and students and administrators a run through of what to expect come April and May when we're computer-based testing. We're awaiting test administrator manuals and principal administrator manuals from the state currently. However, we're trying to extrapolate as much as we can from last year to make sure that everybody's on the same page and hopefully feeling comfortable heading into this upcoming test administration.
Infrastructure trials. That's a bit of a mouthful to say. When it comes to those, are they the same as what last year was, where the schools would essentially just take a practice test?
Absolutely. So, yep, an infrastructure trial, better put, more commonly referred to as a practice test, absolutely. We're not measuring student scores on an infrastructure trial. The main purpose behind conducting these practice tests or infrastructure trials is to make sure that the school is adequately prepared from a device standpoint, from an infrastructure standpoint, and from a comfort standpoint to take a computer-based standardized test. In doing so, we work with test coordinators to create fictitious student accounts, after which we enroll these fictitious accounts into test sessions that are then administered by test administrators at the schools. When we're able to do this, we're able to have the students log on become familiar with using a testing ticket, and we're able to measure the weight that having every student in the school on the network puts on the internet at the school. So we're really trying to test the Wi-Fi to make sure that come MCAS, we're not going to have any issues. So we monitor that diligently. We work with the test coordinators and the principals to make sure that everybody is aware of what to expect come April and May.
Yeah, I think this is really good to understand because every building has one test coordinator. And so most of us as teachers don't understand all the stuff that goes on in the background to prepare. We just think we have to go in, check, make sure our students are logged in, and then walk around the room.
And that's a great point, Mike. So one of the things that we're trying to do this year is we're really trying to assist test administrators as well. So I'm in the process currently. We're going to be receiving a training next week on the 15th from the state regarding an overview for infrastructure trials. We expect most things to be the same. The only difference we know of this year in computer-based testing is that there will not be a seal code for students to enter. So students will be giving testing tickets for the administration for computer-based testing this year. What I'm doing is I'm creating digital learning videos to assist test administrators for what to expect on test day, meaning how to unlock a testing session, how to resume a student's test, how to monitor a student's progress through testing. I'll be creating short videos so that test administrators can review these heading into the test administration period and feel comfortable with what they need to do on top of their infrastructure trials, which will already be conducted at the schools. And on top of their test administrator manuals, which they will have to review. So we want to make sure that our support is threefold, between manuals, videos, and in-person infrastructure trial trainings so that everybody feels comfortable come test administration.
Brendan, it sounds like a lot. Is this something that a teacher can get their head around the day before testing starts?
I would advise not doing that. However, that's why, again, we have some fantastic, all of our test coordinators are fantastic, as well as our administrators at the schools. Every test coordinator will be mandated to attend the state training on the infrastructure trials next week on the 15th. And additionally, we're going to have multiple Skype support sessions set up from digital learning to help support schools and test coordinators in creating test sessions and fictitious students, so that our test coordinators feel comfortable setting up and doing that background work that Mike was talking about, so they can tee up our test administrators to have a successful dry run in our practice test and or infrastructure trial, as we choose to name it. But to answer your question, Suzanne, no, I would absolutely recommend test administrators become familiar with the process, with what they're going to be doing, as well as, of course, reviewing the test administrator's manual, which this year will provide new scripts for what test administrators can and cannot say to students during testing.
So with all the resources that you've been working on, these videos, where would a test administrator be able to find them?
Yep, so I would suggest test administrators go to your test coordinator to receive links for these videos. Each school is going to conduct a security and protocols training. It's mandated by the state, and it's something that we mandate here at the district as well. These videos are available to our test coordinators in our MCAS 2.0 Brightspace courses, as well as to anybody who has access to Microsoft Stream, which everybody in our district does and our network does. So those will be shared out by our test coordinators, and that will be the messaging that I put out to share with our test administrators via email. They'll be posted in our MCAS 2.0, in our MCAS Educator Resource course, which I've created to assist educators. So there's going to be multiple platforms from which our test administrators can access these materials.
That's great. Brendan, can you elaborate a little bit for those people who may not be familiar at all with the online testing? You've referred to these sessions many times and what the teacher needs to do to monitor these sessions. Can you walk through what a teacher goes through as they're administering this test? Obviously, it's very different from the paper-based test where they're passing out the booklets and whatnot. There's a lot of logistics involved. Can you walk through that?
That's a great question. So yeah, there are logistics involved in terms of, obviously we're introducing technology into standard-based testing. So a key is making sure that we're taking care of our technology, making sure that our computers are fully charged the night before, have been used in the weeks leading up to the test administration. We want to make sure that computers receive the updates that they need to so that students are able to have a successful test administration. And additionally, we want to make sure that our test sessions go off without a hitch. So this year, as opposed to last year, this is a new thing with MCAS 2.0 for grades 3 through 8. Each subject will be tested in 2 testing sessions. Last year, ELA was tested in 3 sessions. That has changed to 2. So now each subject and grade level will be tested in 2 testing sessions. They remain untimed, so there's no stress on making sure that students start at a certain time and finish at a certain time. We just want to make sure that our test administrators really take advantage of those infrastructure trials to become familiar with the technological needs for standards-based testing, especially the MCAS 2.0.
What are some of the common issues that you've encountered in the past with online testing? Some of the errors that the students may encounter that teachers would need to resolve during a testing session?
Most common, students can find their way out of the test nav. So the test nav is the icon on every student device. It's been pushed out from our IT department. They've done a great job updating and pushing that out this year. Every device that's had an update has received that updated test nav. It's that white icon with a blue T through it, and it says test nav on it. That's the platform that students are going to be using to be testing on this year. Every now and then, a student may hit the escape button on their keyboard twice to exit themselves, him or herself, out of the testing session. Well, I'll have created a video, and we'll have reviewed the process in the test administrator's manual for how to resume a student's test. Our test administrators did a great job last year within the Pearson platform, which is what we use for testing, for monitoring testing. Resuming students' tests, that's probably the most key go-to thing. So if a student exits the test, whether it be accidentally, for lunch, for any reason, we've found that just making sure that our test administrators feel comfortable within the platform of Pearson to resume a student's test. Now, of course, we saw some one-off instances where we've had devices, malfunction. If technology worked perfect 100% of the time, I think we'd all be a happier society, but that isn't the case all the time. So we've had to troubleshoot where we've had new devices brought in, where students exchanged the device for a new one and had a successful test administration. In terms of widespread issues, last year we were very fortunate. We did not come across many instances where we had significant issues. However, we've communicated to schools and administrators and test coordinators the process for what to do. We're really working on preventing, detecting, and acting this year. That's our 3 words in terms of troubleshooting. So how can we prevent an issue from occurring? Well, how do we detect what is occurring, and how do we act on that action? So we've really developed a good plan with our administrators at the schools to handle issues should they come up.
Excellent.
Oh, go ahead.
You've mentioned 2 Brightspace courses, the MCAS 2.0 2017-18 course and the Educator Resource course. Can you elaborate on the difference between those 2 courses?
Absolutely. So the MCAS 2.0 17-18 course, as well as the MCAS 17-18 high school course. So we have 2 courses set up for support for test coordinators and administrators at the schools. So we have those 2 courses for the test coordinators and administrators at the schools. That's basically for me to communicate policy. So if I need to communicate with the test coordinator that, we need to, meet to discuss infrastructure trials, setting them up. That's the platform, the one-stop shop resource that we here at Digital Learning use to communicate with those folks. Our MCAS Educator Resource course is a new resource that I created based off of feedback last year. So I had the opportunity to spend a lot of time in the schools last year during test administration. And I heard a lot of feedback from teachers saying, hey, we want some more skin in the game. We want to kind of know what's going on. We want access to videos for how to, navigate this Pearson thing. We want access to practice materials. We want access to test administrator manuals, easily to find curriculum frameworks. So over the summer, I built out a self-registration course that anybody using Brightspace can have access to allow folks to self-register to a course, especially test administrators, teachers, to become more familiar with MCAS, whether it be for practice materials, for assistance with use of the platform, anything that a test administrator or teacher would need, I'm trying to put in that course to make sure that they feel supported as well.
And you said it's a self-registration course. So how do they self-register? Where do they do that?
That's a great question. So there's when you log into Brightspace, you have your top menu bar that contains, I believe, content, quizzes or assignments, If you go all the way to the right, you'll see self-registration right in the middle of your screen. If you select self-registration, you will see MCAS 2.0 Educator Resource Course. All you need to do is select the blue hyperlink for that, enter your first, last name, and email address, and you can access that course and the resources that are available to it as well.
Excellent. If they have any questions along the way,
email DLA support at Springfield Public Schools, and I'll be happy to assist to make sure that you get access to those resources, because we definitely want to make sure that our test administrators and our teachers, another word for it, have access to this information.
Thank you, Brendan, for updating us on MCAS, as it's a very big thing that our department takes care of, and we start in January and we go till next January pretty much with all the stuff that we do. So thank you for the update, and hopefully this has been a really good learning opportunity for all of the test administrators out there to kind of see some of the behind the scenes, some of the things that we're doing to help them prepare.
Thanks a lot, Mike and Suzanne. I really appreciate you guys having me again. It's always fun to talk MCAS. and I really do. I ask anybody who is listening, who has any questions about anything that you've heard today, to please reach out to DLA support at springfieldpublicschools.com. I look forward to hearing from you. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And I look forward to seeing you all at the schools, if not.
With Cheryl Elias. If you ever had any doubt that young children could use technology effectively in the classroom, wait till you hear what she has to say.
Good morning, I'm Cheryl Elias. I teach first grade here at Margaret C. Els, and I've been teaching for 20 years.
Within that 20 years, I imagine that you've seen a lot of technology come and go. So can you tell us about one of those first teaching with technology tools that you used?
Well, a majority of my beginning years was in Catholic school, so our biggest technology was a little projector. It wasn't until I came to Springfield that I really got immersed in technology and using technology. My second year here, we got smart boards, and I think that is when finally I felt like the classroom really came alive, and I started to learn about all the different things that I could do and how I could use technology with my students.
When you say projector, are you talking more like the vis-a-vis and the marks all over the arms every night?
Right, your little overhead projector and the lights out and your little clear sheets. And that's not even technology. It's like a little electronic plug-in thing.
Well, we've come a long way since then. You mentioned getting the smart board. So using smart boards, because I come from fifth grade, younger grades are a blind spot to me in the classroom, especially with technology, because I hear a lot from not only other people, but also my own preconceived notions that the students can't do it. So what were some of the first things with technology that you were doing with the students?
In the beginning, I started off using Smart Notebook, which is a smart board technology piece to create interactive lessons for the students to participate either in whole group or small group. These lessons provided immediate feedback for the students. It had self-correcting options that you could embed inside the different activities that you planned and set up. And from there, I then asked the city to kindly load Smart Notebook onto all of our computers in the classroom. So now the students all have Smart Notebook on their personal lap computer, and we can now share and work together on different activities.
Wow. So first graders are using Smartboard software, the Smart Notebook, and I imagine when you have them do it, are they using their mouse or are they actually flipping it open to tablet version and using their finger and writing on the screen?
So that depends. That depends on what the activity is. we do it both ways. And I also give them the option. So if we're working on the rug, I prefer that they flip it as the tablet and sit with it nicely in their lap. That way, if somebody moves, they're not bumping and there's not the chance of breaking that screen off. If they're working at their seats and I'm monitoring their work, through walking around and using Dino on my smartboard, then they have the option to leave it open. Personally, I feel that touching the screen appears to be much easier, but it's amazing that more than 50% of the students choose to use the mouse and manipulate the screen that way.
That is interesting because a lot of these first graders, and for the last few years, they're coming up in the smartphone era where it's all touchscreen. So it's interesting to hear that around half of them prefer using the mouse.
Right. And we have one program we use in here called Storyboard. And at the first question is, are you using mouse or touch? Oh. And they get to pick what they want.
So what is Storyboard?
So Storyboard is like a comic strip. And they can create scenes and they can create their characters and add captions or story titles underneath. They can add speech bubbles in, or everything can be underneath. So right now we're using it for two things. We're using it to retell stories, and we're using it to create math problems in the classroom. So if I want them to show me an equation and then a related addition fact and a related subtraction fact, Storyboard allows those 3 slides for them to do that. It also allows us to put in voice so they can then explain each of their slides.
That sounds like a lot with first graders. So I imagine there was a lot of pre-teaching that you go about with this. So like with any of the software that you use or any of the programs, what is your strategy for pre-teaching your first graders in using the computers?
So when we're first introducing the students to a new program, I give them an overview on the rug. So they sit, they watch me. I show them a couple of tools that they can use in the software, and then I take them step by step to get to the software. Now, with our computers not holding certain icons, I try to store everything we're going to use in Brightspace under our links, and what I can't store there, I have taught them how to search. Once we have been given the overview on the smartboard all together, I give the students about 15 to 20 minutes that first day to just explore. And I walk around, I give them support, I show them, point out different things. But this is just a time for them to get used to how it works. I tell them it doesn't matter what it looks like. If you make a mistake, erase it, try it again. We're not saving. And I tell them it doesn't, I'm not looking to see if you've created something that tells me a story or that proves that you understand. I just want you to explore. I have noticed that takes a lot of fear out of now the next step. The next day, okay, here's a specific task we're going to do on this site. Here's how you do it, step by step. I make sure everyone, press file. We're on file, thumbs up. Okay, press new. We're opening up a new program. Thumbs up. And I monitor Dino and walk around to make sure we're all where we need to be, step by step. Doesn't always work that way. Some computers in the middle crash on us. And, when that happens, we jump on with a neighbor. It allows for excellent peer collaboration. And, I have some students in here who are very tech savvy. So then they become my table monitors and they help to make sure that students are where they need to be. So I find that doing that overview, the exploring, and then the step-by-step allows us for when I want to create a final product to publish, that it's much easier for the students to then work in that site.
Sounds like great advice for everybody, because I know because of my position working with a lot of teachers, there's a lot of fear going into different programs thinking that either you're going to break it or it's not going to do what you want it to do, and maybe it doesn't do what you want it to do because that's not what it's designed for. So what you're doing with the first graders is something that sounds like we should be doing with everybody.
Right.
In general.
Here at ELS, we have some technology drop-in sessions that myself and another teacher hold. And we just teach them about some of the different sites that they can try and use with their students. We are primary preschool, so it's hard to get teachers to buy into, ooh, this is a great tool to use. You know, we do get some good feedback and some good turnout most of the time.
Nice. It's good to hear that there's a lot of collaboration happening in the building. So before we started recording, we were talking about a cool portfolio program that you're using. Could you tell us about it?
Yes. So here in first grade, we use a program called Seesaw that I found over the summer. It's a classroom. You set up your classroom, put your students' names in. The students log in using a QR code that you print out for your class. You can make as many copies, whatever size you want. I have little individual ones kept where the students can grab it, and it allows them to do different things. They can draw in it like paint. They can record, they can take pictures, they can make a video or just record their voice. It also allows, once they have done something, they can then add a caption or a label or add some drawing to that. And then when they have their final product, they press their name and it sends it to their specific spot. I then receive an email saying you have some new posts. Before it is published, I have to approve it before anyone else can see it. I decide if it's appropriate or not, approve it, and then I can provide student feedback. It also allows them to look at other students' work and they can make comments on it. It has an excellent blogging option where we are set up for in January to work with another school outside of the district, actually in California. And the teacher and I are going to collaborate on a project where our students will record their work using Seesaw and then provide each other with feedback.
Wow. When we were talking about this, it kind of blows my mind with the stuff that you're doing. You're using QR codes with students. You're essentially taking like what's great about Skype in the classroom and then turning that into like a project. Like, this is a lot of technology for these first graders that they're doing. It's just very exciting to hear, and I can't even sit still at the moment. So Seesaw, is it free?
It is free. There are options that you have to pay for if you would like to track certain objectives and standards, then you have to pay for that. But to upload, there's a large amount of classrooms you can have in 1 year. So if you were a teacher that taught multiple classes, you could have that. And so far, everything that it offers free is exactly what I'm looking for to use with my first graders.
That's great. Now, with portfolios, part of the idea behind them overall in general is sharing. And so it sounds like they can share with each other. Can they share with their parents?
They can. So also starting in January, because we're just learning how to use them, and I want to really teach them and get them built up, I will then send out the share with your parent option. Then the parents will have the opportunity to see their students' work. They will get a QR code and they pick their student's name and they can look at all their child's work, and they can also add feedback and comments.
That's awesome. So that really pulls in like the outside world. It pulls in their parents into the classroom, when I imagine that you have students coming from all over, so getting all parents to come in can be challenging. I remember that from being a fifth grade teacher. But the ability to like send work home that doesn't get lost somewhere in a backpack. Right.
It also connects the parents to what's happening in the classroom all day. I work really hard to eliminate as much paper and pen as I can. And when first graders go home and their parents say, "Oh, what did you do today?" 95% of them say, "Oh, nothing. We had recess. We had lunch." They don't remember what they did in class, even though we do a little quick review at the end of the day. Seesaw will allow parents to see some of the work that's happening in the classroom. It allows them to see, their student who they say, "Oh, my child is shy." Well, here's your student working with another student and, collaborating and doing some of these things that you might never know happen.
So you use Seesaw, you use smartboard software, and I can see you have your computer open. Our listeners can't see, but I can see. And I see there's maybe almost a dozen links here. Mm-hmm. So what are some of these other ones that you really like that you're like, oh, if everybody was just using this would help a lot?
So
or that you just like in general?
The first one is Kahoots.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. The kids love it. It gives you immediate feedback on what students know, what they're thinking. You can stop. You can have excellent number talks about why they picked what they picked. Get other students to chime in why their thinking was good or why their thinking may need some adjustment. And students are highly engaged in Kahoots. You can create your own. You can look up Kahoots and edit them to fit the needs of your class. I would say out of all the things I use, that's the one site that excites the students the most.
I was going to say, I remember using Kahoots, and I had students, so in 5th grade, we had desks. We didn't have awesome tables like you have here, but the students who sat in the back would continue to like creep forward thinking that, if I'm sitting forward, I can be the first one to answer because I know the answer.
Right.
So it definitely is a highly engaging tool.
It definitely is. I use Epic Books, which I learned about over the summer. So I just put in different books for themes that children can go on during reading group time and listen to a book or read it through the computer. Just a different way for them to read. eTools, Math Playground, Pearson Math Tools, and Virtual Manipulatives. Those are just some math sites that allow online manipulation. So if we're working on how to make 10 different ways, I will have them go on Virtual Tools. It has this really cool boat that you can put the bears in, and they can, create their math problems that way. Rec and Recs are math tool we use in here, so that's just an online version. And the children can choose between the hand material or the online version if they'd like. Storyboard and Seesaw are a new tool that we're using this year. Mm-hmm. So those are just some of the things that we're doing. Also, Codable, I almost missed that. Mm-hmm. So Codable is a coding site. So much of it is for free, and then you have to pay afterwards. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a little fuzzy, and you're coding him through a maze. And the mazes progressively get harder. Then at the end, you can build your own maze and share it with the students in your classroom to go through. This is an excellent tool to use when you're introducing a new math concept that might not be easy. Mm-hmm. Because as these mazes get harder, you have to decide if you're going to go up and down in a repetitive motion, how many times, and it only allows you so many moves. So it really makes the students think, and they feel like they're playing a game, and they don't even realize that they're really thinking and solving and using some real critical thinking skills.
Wow. So with all that we've talked about, if you had the opportunity to stand in front of all the kindergarten and 1st and 2nd grade teachers, some of the lower elementary teachers who are hesitant to use technology, what would your advice to them be?
My advice would be to tap into people in your building, in our district, who are comfortable teaching technology, and to start small and work your way up. I have found that over the years, the biggest hang up is the adults, not the students. And if you would just start small, you could open up a whole world of learning, collaboration, and engagement for all your students.
Well, you have given us a lot today, and we are very thankful that you've taken your time out in your morning. I know that's school starting in a few minutes. So I just want to, again, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So I don't know about you guys, but Cheryl Elias is like my hero at the moment. You could definitely tell I was excited during the interview, but I just think I guess my preconceived notions of like what the abilities of like first graders and kindergartners can do is very limited, and just the stuff that she's doing with her students kind of just like takes that and like sinks it like a rock in the ocean.
Yeah, I loved it. I would love to visit her classroom and see it firsthand, but I remember when I taught kindergarten, my principal used to refer to kindergartners as herding cats because they're just here, there, and everywhere. And first graders, just 1 year older than that, it is a extremely talented individual who can not only teach effectively, but now, Cheryl, incorporating all this technology, it's just amazing. I love it.
One of the things that I really liked that she mentioned was like her strategy on like anytime new software is introduced with the students, and the fact that it sets it up in a low stakes to no stakes. Here is the software, we're going to play with it, and you're not going to be graded on it, you're just going to check it out and learn how to use it, which I think is also important for all of us, because anytime any new piece of software or technology comes along, we either get the, ooh, this sounds like awesomeness and we want to try it, or the, I don't know, I'm already doing this, this, and this, I don't need to add something else to my plate, or I'm going to break it. It's not going to work. So it's great to hear like her strategy is one that we can use as adults in trying software, not just young students.
Right, definitely. It's very important to give people time to just practice and not be afraid to break anything.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine teaching a kindergarten course, and I know you guys both come from teaching backgrounds. I have a pretty extensive training backgrounds. I really appreciate her approach to the infusion of technology into her course, into her curriculum. I mean, Mike, you said it best, that low stakes to no stakes application really does provide that comfort level for the students. And it's a model that I think a lot of people should take after, for sure.
And I love the fact that she has her teacher tech drop-in sessions. So not only does she use technology extensively, she wants to share all that fabulous knowledge. She wants to help teachers who are a little unsure get on board.
I know one of the programs that she talked about using was Epic Books, and I was very curious afterwards, so when I came back to the office to like, alright, I'm going to look and see what this is. If you are an elementary teacher listening to this podcast right now, you need to sign up for Epic Books, because there's like 25,000 books that are available to be read through an e-reader, or if there's an audio version of it, it's available that way, that is free. I'm going to say that again. Free books that you can read in the classroom, and all the tablets students have flip open to basically be a giant e-reader. So taking advantage of a website like this that's free, that all you have to do is sign up. For you as a teacher, you sign up, you create your class, and then students have access to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of high interest books. So I'm just plugging that one out of all the ones that she talked about. I mean, they're all great. Codatable's great. Of course, we're partial to Brightspace. So, well, that's it for this week. Again, if you listen to us anywhere, you listen to us. If you could just respond, tell us you like us, leave us comments, feedbacks, questions. If you know of someone who should be interviewed, also send us that information along. You can send it DLA support. You can send it through Yammer. You can send it to us snail mail, however you want. You can get that information to us. But we are very glad that you joined us today for this podcast. I'm Mike Thomas.
Suzanne Zarkis.
I'm Brendan Reed.
And we'll see you next week.